guys, I'm going to show you how I make my vegan sourdough discard pie crust. First, we're going to take 2 sticks of vegan butter. It's like 8 tablespoons a stick, so we need 16 tablespoons of butter. I froze these. I'm going to cut them up into cubes. You can also use a grater if you'd like. Alright, and I cut up my butter into cubes. It is starting to melt a little from my hands, so I'm going to pop this in the freezer and chill it again. While the butter's chilling, I'm going to add my other ingredients in. So you don't need to use a food processor for this. You can use a pastry cutter if you'd like, or just a fork in your hands. But we're going to add a cup of flour into here, all purpose. Then we're going to add a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of sugar. Then we're going to add a half a cup of very cold sourdough starter discard. All right, now we're going to mix this together. We're going to add another cup and a quarter cup of flour to this mixture. And we're going to pulse it together again. And then our butter should be done chilling, and then we're going to pulse that in. All right, looking good so far. We're going to put in our little butter chunks. I like to do half at a time here. So I'm adding half of the butter chunks now. I'm going to pulse it and then add the other half. All right, and again. So at this point, we have big butter chunks in here. So we're going to start putting in a tablespoon of ice water at a time. I've got this on the side over here. We're going to add in a tablespoon of ice water at a time and keep pulsing until we can get this all mixed together. All right, and then I used about 2 tablespoons altogether, and your dough should look like this. Now we're going to take this dough out of here. We are going to separate it into 2 halves. And kind of flatten them out into like flat discs. All right, we got our pie crust here. We're going to separate it and flatten them, and then we're going to put them, you can either put them in plastic wrap, or I'm going to use plastic Ziploc bags that I just wash and reuse. And there we go. Now that these are in their own little bags, we're going to put these in the fridge and let them cool overnight. We're going to let them chill. And then we will roll them out and make them into pies. It's just that easy, guys. And I will show you how to make, I'm going to make a cherry pie with this, so you guys can see it in action. But you can use this for anything. You could actually skip the sugar and do like a savory pie crust, like a vegan chicken pot pie or something. Our pie dough has chilled in the fridge. It is time to roll it out. So I like to use the parchment paper trick when I do this, and then flip it over. And now we're going to trim up these edges and fix it to make it look nice and even. All right, now we're going to stab the bottom with a fork. This is going to prevent air bubbles from creeping up and inflating this crust on the bottom. So I'm making a cherry pie today. Now you can make your own filling, or you can get store-bought. I will do a recipe video on how to make a fruit pie filling in another video, but it's pretty straightforward. Most pie filling at the store too is accidentally vegan, so keep that in mind. We're going to fill this pie crust up to the brim, like as full as you possibly can, because that's the real star of the show, in my opinion, is the fruit. And that is all I needed. It was about roughly 2.5 cups of filling here. All right, same thing. We rolled it out on our parchment paper, and we are going to flop it over the top of the pie. All right, and there she is. She did rip a little here, but I did cut off excess. I did pinch it in. We are going to cut some slits in here to help the pie get some breathing room here, because it is going to expand. And I have some scraps left, and I'll show you what I do with these scraps to make this extra special. So I have these super adorable little cookie cutters, and I like to take little cookie cutters and cut out little shapes with the excess pie dough and put it on top. It just gives it like a little extra something something, you know? I actually put a couple of little Hello Kitty cutouts on it. You really can't tell, but they're super cute. We're gonna stick this back in the fridge and preheat our oven. We're gonna preheat this to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a couple of different things you could do for the top of your pie. You could do a vegan egg wash by doing some soy milk or other plant milk mixed with some maple syrup and brushing that on top. What I'm going to do today is just brush it with some soy milk and then sprinkle some granulated sugar on top. Right, and just be careful when you do brush it with plant milk that you don't get the edges too much, because we really don't want those edges to brown faster than the rest of the pie crust. All right, now I'm going to sprinkle some sugar on top. All right, now we're going to pop this in the oven. We're going to set the timer for 30 minutes and then check on it after 30 minutes and make sure that the top isn't browning too fast so that that bottom crust has time to bake too. You could pre-bake the bottom crust, but I just don't like doing that because sometimes I feel like the bottom crust just gets too cooked. So we're trying to keep this pretty simple. We're going to bake it for 30 minutes and then check on it after that. 30 minutes has passed. I just want to say first and foremost, it smells amazing in here. Secondarily, as you can see, the crust on top is getting browned, but my crust underneath is not cooked enough yet. So we're going to put some foil on top of this and we're going to put it back in the oven for probably another 20 minutes. Yeah, if you've never made a sourdough pie crust before, you'll notice that it smells so interesting. It really does elevate your pie crust game because it smells buttery, but it also smells sour. It's got that sourdough smell to it, and it permeates the whole house, and it's mouth-watering. Here we are, guys. I had a little bit of a blowout right here, but took 15 minutes. You can't really tell, but the crust on the bottom is now golden brown too. And isn't she beautiful? We're gonna let this cool down and then I will cut into it for you.